Hello and welcome to the Sharpening Report. I am your host, Josh Peck. Very excited to be talking with you today. We have a very special returning guest, a good friend of ours, Terry Sacka, AAMS, financial and prophecy expert. Terry, how are you doing today?
Hello, Josh. Good to see you again.
Yeah, great to have you on. So as we're recording this, we're running into a little bit of internet issues. So for you at home, I'm going to try to clean it up the best I can in post. Usually the recording ends up okay, even if the internet's a little wonky. So we're gonna do the best we can here. But let's just jump right into this update on what's going on with the New World Order and what's going on financially and how that connects with prophecy. Last time that we talked a lot about inflation. Is inflation still a problem?
Yeah, I think it's important to do a little background here because what amazes me, Josh, is, we all talk about in the prophetic circle, the New World Order and the one world currency, one world religion. And it's always kind of been this distant idea, but it's actually playing out right now, which is a shocker. So I think towards the end of this interview, I will lay out the actual facts on the ground that are going through the World Economic Forum and China and the Brics. And when you see what their plan is in the white papers, mind you, this is not conspiracy. This is actually in the white paper. It's their outline. It's going to be pretty shocking. So I think a lot of us are realizing we're closer than we think. So I think a little background is kind of important because inflation is still a big issue. And this background is going to lead up to why this is all happening and why that new currency system through the Brics is coming backed up by gold. And so it's very important. But what's amazing in America, we've kind of walked out our financial cycle that we're in. And so we have 237 cities right now where just a starter home is over $1 million. And that's unbelievable. I mean, how many people can afford $1 million home? And yet that's a starter home. The real inflation rate, and this is why we have to be careful, the mainstream media doesn't tell us the truth at all. It's rigged against us, literally. And the numbers aren't right. But real inflation right now today is 12%. And you can go to shadowstats.com. It's a government numbered website. These are 1980 calculations when we were actually honest about measuring inflation. And back using that calculation, it actually today is 12%. We were as high as 18%. And so when they try to tell us, oh, inflation's getting better, well, sure, it came down from 18% and now we're at 12. But 12% is pretty serious. That's still a very, very high price of inflation. And the problem is it can't get better. So for many of us who remember a lot of the cycles of economy, we've had recessions and then we come out of it, we get economic boom again. We're at the end of a cycle this time. So inflation, unfortunately, can't get better because the dollar doesn't buy us the same and is diluted. So the only way that we're going to move forward in another economic boom will be through a new currency. And we all are pretty ready for it now. We've been hearing about it. It's going to be a digital form of currency, but one that's programmable and not healthy. So we have to fight that. But until we transition to this new currency system, I think it's part of the Great Reset, we will not see prices go down a lot. Certain items, yes, but unfortunately, inflation is going to be here to stay because the dollar itself, unfortunately, is printed into the trillions and just not worth anything.
So why are major hedge funds selling real estate below buying price all over the country?
I think part of that is what we're dealing with today. That could be a factor. What you're seeing is home inventory is just skyrocketing. And these hedge funds came in and bought real estate all over the country. They were basically taking it away from we the people, forcing prices to rise. So that didn't help when we were going to buy a home. Well, what's interesting is they're selling these properties now. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that cities are collapsing all over the country. These blue cities are not coming back. They're not going to change their political affiliation. So these cities are done. We're watching the deterioration of America in an extraordinary way. But the fact that they're selling these homes that they bought below the price they bought it, that tells you something. And we're dealing with here hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars in losses, commercial real estate losses that are going to hit the banks. And so I think a lot of these hedge funds, it's all about interest rates. The rental market has really softened, but what they're doing is they're saturating the market. So all of a sudden now for homeowners, now this is regional. There's some regions it's not happening, but a lot of regions they are. You're starting to get so saturated with for sale signs that it's going to really force that price down, which is unfortunate depending on when you bought your home. But a lot of it is because they see what's coming. And so I think they're consolidating the books because most of them are leveraged pretty heavy in debt.
Yeah, I can even speak to that from personal experience. We just moved from Decatur, Illinois to Oklahoma, and we had to sell a house in that we had in Decatur that we had bought before we moved, and we lost tens of thousands of dollars on that deal. We just could not sell it, and it was a good house. Like we paid a pretty fair price for it when we first got it, but by the time that we were ready to sell it, which was only a few months after that. So as of the time of this recording, we just sold it like a week ago or a couple weeks ago. And by that time, plus the taxes in Illinois are just absolutely horrendous. So we lost probably 30,000, maybe 40,000 on that deal. And God's been taking care of us, so it's okay. But still, I mean, it's really bad out there. And then there's the financial institutions. So what's going on with financial institutions that are delaying giving people their money?
Oh, this is a big one. And just to go back on your home, good news for folks out there. We are going to go into, once we get this correction, I'll get into that a little bit later here. We are going to go into printing trillions and trillions of dollars. So the good news in that aspect anyway, although it will keep increasing inflation, real estate prices will rebound again. They will be forced to lower rates to some extent, but I'm telling you, as much as they talk about lowering rates, with what's coming here over the next 2-3 years, they need to raise interest rates. And so this is a very strange time in history that we're going through, but we're seeing, because of the stress in the financial markets, they've always over capitalized. So they would go out like a bank or a brokerage or these hedge funds. They can take $1 in and they leverage up to 25 or more dollars per dollar. So we are seeing customers all the time. And this tells you the company doesn't want to send the money. They do everything they can to delay, because every day they hold on to that money, they're making some off the interest because interest is high. But we had a customer, it was about $300,000. It was delayed for weeks and weeks because that company had to consolidate $7.5 million on the books. So it's a big deal. And I have a bad feeling. And I told him, he was getting pretty frustrated. And I said, you just should feel very fortunate right now. When there's 1,000 people or 10,000 people calling that company, you're not getting a phone call. I mean, the amount of delay and the amount of lies, which was shocking me. Oh, we did this, and first we did that, and then we did this, and none of it was ever true. And I said, you're fortunate you're doing this now. You're getting your wealth out of that paper system now, because when there's 10,000 people calling that company, it's not happening. And so I think it's because they're leveraged, extensively leveraged. We have right now, I did a podcast on this. It was amazing to see the actual data. Dozens of banks are over 150% of their capital. So, which means they're basically broke, insolvent, and they're 50% higher than anything they have in asset. So they're in deep trouble. Hundreds of banks are completely insolvent right now, and they're just kind of faking it along. there's actually hundreds of billions of dollars in losses in these banks and institutions that are really off book accounting right now. They're not marking it to the market. They're off book. And so the reason I want to kind of give some of this background is because when we get to the end of this podcast and we talk about how they're putting that one currency together, you'll understand that America, we're in a very difficult place. And I still think we can get out of it, but we are going to have a controlled burn. We are going to see some very difficult times in the future because we have to. So it's a matter of how they transition us through this. And I think these financial institutions that are over leveraged like crazy, they don't want to give that money up, because just for that $300,000, they had to consolidate $7.5 million. They're not interested in doing so. So for a lot of folks, be very cautious on being overweighted in any particular financial institution, because remember, it's not your money. I know people don't believe this, but it's not your money in the bank. You're an unsecured creditor. You gave the bank a loan. Even in your stock market, it's not your money. It's not your stock. I know this is crazy, but it's actually by law, it's titled in street name only. So these guys are in trouble. And what I don't like is they're not being honest. And so I think when you see the dishonesty to give you your money back that you think is yours, once you realize it's not yours, they're just obligated to pay you back, you can understand why they're going to delay. And it's very, very unhealthy.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then you'll have some people that say, well, yeah, it's bad now, but just wait. This is just a cycle. It's just a natural thing that happens in the economy. But it seems like there's something more. Is this just a cycle, or is there something more going on here?
And see, that's great, Josh, because that's exactly what I see mostly. And who's kidding who? We all are probably thinking to some extent that way. But when you see the data, and you see that we've gone through our cycle of currency as we are today, this Federal Reserve note, when you see what the East is doing, you'll realize real quick, this is not, and I mean seriously, not a cycle. There's a reason the West is in deep trouble, but there's a reason you're seeing wars and rumors of wars is to distract us, to stop it, but we won't be able to stop it. And so these wars are a distraction. My guess, they want to try to, put us off over here, focusing on the wars when the financial system's getting ready to get flipped. Because right now, today, because of the trillions we printed during COVID, they have to pull the money back out of the system. We're at a negative 2% on the currency contraction. Now, I know for most people, it's like, well, what does that mean? Well, put it this way, going back to the 1800s, anytime we were that negative number in currency contraction, we were in a major depression and double-digit unemployment. So this is real. And this goes back all the way to the 1800s. So maybe they're getting better at handling it, because at the same time, they're trying to pull money out because inflation is so high. They're going to have to print trillions in the years to come, especially coming next year. You're going to see trillions being printed. It's going to have to go back into the system, which is going to accelerate inflation even more. So interesting time. But a high probability of a substantial correction is coming after this election. I mean, when you see the chart and the data, there is no doubt it should already be happening. I mean, we are already way overblown. The capital expenditure, meaning the money they printed, the money they put in, the money they're trying to take out, the debt levels of the banking system and where we're at, we should already be in a major market correction. And so my guess is we're going to see a pretty substantial correction once that election is over. And it doesn't matter who wins. It's happening. That's a problem, because once that happens, those that aren't properly prepared or positioned will lose a decent amount at that time, and they're going to have to wait it out for it to return back to those levels. I would say this is a time to diversify away while the market's near a high. But what good news is, and if there's any good news on this side, but really it is, Once that happens, and I know come January, we just it's baked in the charts. I mean, I show it on my podcast a lot where the data, I get more into the data and the charts, but we will be printing trillions and trillions come next year. I know even Trump said if he were to, by the grace of God, get back in there, he would get these rates down and then put it in, get it going. Well, unfortunately, that's going to make unbelievable amount of inflation, but it's the only thing we can do. And then when those rates come down, gold and silver prices are going to go through the roof, way, way beyond the next level up. So it's about diluting the currency itself, though. And so when we print these trillions come next year, we think our buying power is bad now. It is going to be literally almost not hyperinflation, but we're going to see prices so expensive. I mean, I don't know about you, but I get shocked. Even things like blueberries, or raspberries or something. They're so expensive. I'm like, I'm not buying those, right? We're going to go through a cycle where that's going to get worse. And there's nothing we can do about it. And the main reason, and this is kind of leads into why all of this background was important. The West has finally hit its time. We've gone way beyond our currency cycle. Our debt levels, our societies are collapsing. I mean, we can go on and on about what societal collapse, right? Look at our morality. But we're not a unipolar world anymore. The United States was the dominant. We not only controlled the world, we had reserve currency, and we were it. But now we're a multipolar world. Ever since, and I think it was done on purpose, but as soon as Sloppy Joe got in there, they went right after Russia. They forced Russia to invade. They started these wars. We had no wars under Trump, but as soon as that happened, these wars, now the bigger part of these wars has nothing to do with Ukraine. Well, it does with the biolabs, but it has to do with the fact that they kept hundreds of billions of dollars from Russia. They froze those funds. They're not going to be able to keep them. By law, they can't, but they're trying to. You want to talk about escalation of war, right? But it all comes down to we in the West are doing everything we can to collapse Russia to stop this Brics from developing. Because Brics is the Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Now Saudi Arabia has fully signed on to the program, which means they're no longer doing business in the dollar. Now, this is where it gets to the meat of it. This is why all this background is so important. Because we're a multipolar world now, meaning there's numerous powers taken out. And I know what the talking heads are saying. Oh, the dollar's strong. It's going to be that way for some time. This isn't going to happen overnight. But it is. It's happening right now. The BRICS new currency, these nations are coming together in an alliance. And there's like 30 of them. And some of them are our allies. They're coming together in an alliance to do a new currency unit that's coming online in October. 40% of that currency is going to have gold as its backing. So Europe and the United States, we're just fiat, hey, we're good for it, which the world is seeing that's not very credible anymore because we're stealing money from Russia and other countries and becoming bullies. But these nations are straight up, and so many are going towards that with 40% gold-backed currency. They're creating a new system. And we in the United States controlled the financial system. We controlled it through SWIFT. And SWIFT was the way banks would wire money to other banks, and they would use the US dollar in the middle. And if a country didn't listen to us, we could put sanctions on them, or we can kick them out of SWIFT. It's happened numerous times of a threat. Well, now we lost it. Now, the new digital platform that's coming on is called mBridge. And China is the lead on this, but here's where it gets really creepy. Not only are these nations with mBridge all going into this new currency system, the one behind it is the BIS, which is the Bank of International Settlement, central bank of central banks. They have no governing authority. They have no they have their own police force. I mean, it's pretty creepy stuff. The fact that they're behind it, I started digging into the white papers, and I'm going to do a piece on this called The Great Taking. They literally are putting together this whole new currency system for the Brics and Enbridge. So all these countries will bring their currency to the Enbridge. They'll do a conversion, and then they'll convert it into the Brics unit that is backed up by gold, and then they'll do their trade. Because the bottom line, why this is important for all of us, it's all about trade. Goods are being made over in China. We've ditched our manufacturing base here in the United States, right? All about trade. And all the nations who make these goods are in Brics. Well, what's scary is the white paper that the BIS has not only brings these currencies together to create this unit, go through Enbridge, great. Then they go on to say, well, sometimes these currencies are fluctuating and this isn't as smooth as it can be. We are going to develop a single currency unit that all nations will abide by. I'm sitting here going, that's like New World Order, one world currency. Like, this is exactly what we in the prophetic in the Christian world see coming. And they're using that currency system to control us. And it goes along with the pandemic treaty. They haven't signed yet, but it sounds like they're trying, where then they can override our sovereign rights, constitutional rights, and have us do other health measures. But when they control this money, Josh, they will be able to tell us what we can and cannot do. It's not a good situation. And the problem here for America and we the people, we're not in charge anymore. The Chinese are, the Russians are, the Indians are. I mean, they are running it because they control the population. They control the manufacturing base. China with the Silk Road controls all the shipping lanes, the ports. They control it all. And most Americans aren't aware that we are no longer in charge. A great example, what's going on in the Israeli war. In the Red Sea there, ships are trying to go up to Israel that have supplies and goods, and the Houthis, which is backed by Iran, are blowing them up. They no longer, in the United States military, as cool and tough as we're supposed to be, can't stop them. We're almost over sophisticated. And so when you look at the shipping lanes, the most vital shipping lanes in this world, they're all controlled by BRIC nations. And we're going to be left out because we're no longer in charge. So this is unbelievable stuff. It just really is. And once people realize that they're doing it, come October, it's happening. Once that comes live, the United States and Canada, if they want to trade with the BRICS, they're going to have some gold and silver or something backing up the fact that, hey, we're good for it. And so many people don't believe this, but if you just see the white papers, Josh, the real data, like the real documents, the real videos of their speeches, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is really going down. And so it comes down to what can we do, I guess, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I wanted to ask next, because, when we listen to this, a lot of this sounds like prophecies that we're familiar with, like, the Black Horse prophecy or many other things having to do with the economy and the one world government. And it looks like this is just paving the way for that. So with something that we know prophetically is eventually going to happen anyway, what can we do? What should the average audience that's listening right now, who might not even know anything about the economy or finances, but know prophecy, because they watch this show, what should we, just as the American people or as Christians or whatever, what should we be doing right now?
I know, stay focused on what you're doing. So for your audience, tell your friends, watch Josh, watch this program. I mean, when you dig into those levels of prophecy, it's not, we're not messing around here. Like, you got some game on when you're showing people, because when we see what the Bible was trying to tell us that is coming, once we get the scales off our eyes and get the normalcy bias out of our way, we just admit it. it's okay that this is, and it's not okay it's happening, but it can be okay. We must not panic. We must not operate in fear. The Lord said, I did not give you a spirit of fear, but of power, which was dunamis power, supernatural miracle power, love and a sound mind. So we need to stay focused. I believe if we properly diversify and stay focused, we'll be okay. Be very careful about how much currency you have in a bank, because remember, you're giving them a loan. It's not your money. They just have an obligation to pay you back. You're an unsecured creditor. If a bank goes down, you're behind secured creditors and derivative holders. And because you just gave them a loan, so they just have an obligation to pay you back. Even in the stock market, you don't own the stock. So if you're all in the stock market, you're all in a bank account, even cryptos. And I like cryptos. There are some good ones out there. If you're going to do crypto, you need to get them out of the exchange, put them on a Ledger X or a Ledger S cold wallet, and then you'll be okay. Because in the exchanges, you're an unsecured creditor. And most people don't believe me. Even a dear friend I was having dinner with the other night didn't believe me about the stock market. Now, I'm doing a great piece on the Great Taking. And when I get it done, I'll send it to you, Josh, so you can review it. But it's astounding how this has been a setup for some time. And the Great Taking is basically, when Klaus Schwab said it, you will have nothing and like it. He means it. Because the laws, the bankruptcy laws, the legal laws have all been written. When this stuff goes down, you don't own it. So, for instance, in your stocks, in the old days, we had stock numbers on it. And the stock numbers, we had a certificate given to us. We did own, we had possession of. Today, you don't even have the stock in your name. It's not titled to you. It's actually titled in street name. And actually, it goes down to the owner of DTCC, which is Depository Trust Clearing Corporation. And here's where it really gets creepy. If you looked at a stock certificate or the actual paperwork, it says that it is all, at the end of the day, they're all controlled by the seed corporation. Now, this isn't seed as in SEED, plant a seed. This is seed as in CEDE, as in you cede rights over to. And what's really weird is you can't find out who owns that seed corporation. That's a one world entity. That's who's doing it. All stock is underwritten and owned by the seed corporation, meaning one day when this thing blows up internally around the world, you will cede over your rights to that stock, to that corporation, which basically will be the international bankers. And I'm not kidding when I say this. This is not conspiracy. This is fact. And when you see the word seed corporation written on those documents, you just kind of sit back and go, oh, you got to be kidding me. I mean, even the fact that it says CEDE, you're just like, you got to be kidding. We don't own it. So because we don't own any of this stuff, we're unsecured. That's why Klaus Schwab made it clear one day, because now this is where I'm stepping on a limb. I truly believe there is an orchestrated global collapse coming. I think it's going to be done on purpose. And by doing so, it's going to allow them to usher in the CBDC currency, the digital ID, the total control grid. Now, I'm standing on the other side in prayer. I really believe there's a lot of Christians that believe this, that God's going to prevail and we're going to have a quantitative financial system, QFS. And there's a lot behind that. That's a whole nother conversation. But that's God's side. If we go QFS, we have a chance. But remember, this is war. This is spiritual war. So I'm just sharing with you what their plan is. We Christians better be, number one, properly diversified, protecting our wealth, and two, be aware so we can pray and be there to help others. Because this is a great taking moment, and all bankruptcy laws are stacked against us. And so if they do succeed in doing a global collapse, which I think is being planned, I really do. I think that's what the wars are about. I think that's what the pandemic was about, and it hasn't worked yet. That's where cyber attack, even Klaus Schwab talks about, they're concerned about a cyber attack. How convenient Microsoft went down, shut down the world. I personally think that was probably a test run, and they put some triggers and some malicious code in there so they could shut down the world for good for a month or two if they have to. But that's my little head going sideways, But this is stacked against us because they collateralized. And here's where most people don't realize. These financial institutions and those banks, they used your hard-earned money and collateralized it. They put up your wealth as collateral for their gain. And so if the system collapses and we don't succeed and go to the QFS and we the people rise, that means our collateral gets taken. What happens when a loan goes bad and you have collateral? They take your collateral, right? The money in the bank, your stocks, your bonds, it's collateral. You're an unsecured creditor, and that's the law. And so when we get into the great taking, it'll be important to, show the details. I'm actually going to show in that, I'm going to show the actual laws. I'm going to show the documents. I'm going to show the real stuff. So you don't say, oh, it's just some guy talking. I know I have, multiple financial licenses. I get the financial world, but it's important to show the evidence. I think it's best for people just to see it for themselves. So to kind of wrap that up, with all of this in front of us, be very cautious on thinking everything is just okay. Like you said, Josh, oh, it's a cycle. We'll get through it. Normally we do. This is what we're used to. But we're at the end of a cycle. We're at the end of the dollar right now as we know it. We're well over 50 years. It's over. And so right now, with the Brics rising, 2/3 of the world going into this gold-backed new monetary system, the United States printing trillions of dollars. Just study Rome. When the loss of confidence to a currency happens, empires collapse. Not saying we're collapsing, but we are definitely in trouble. And the part I don't like is they're not telling us. They're just leading us on like everything's okay. So it's vital right now that we are diversified in tangible assets, things like land or gold or silver, things we can put our hands on. Be very careful being in the paper world right now. But the good news to that, if you're going to hold the gold and silver and land for that matter, or houses, when we start printing trillions and trillions of dollars next year, mind you, we're printing $1 trillion every 90 days right now. That's how deep our debt is going. It's unbelievable. The interest on our debt by the end of the year will be 1.6 trillion. We only do 4 trillion a year, in income. So it's a big problem. When they start printing those trillions come next year, we will have a sense that there will be this little mini boom. But we will have, if you see the data, we will have within 2-3 years from there an ultimate bubble burst of epic proportion and probably rolls into a Great Depression scenario. But see, that is what I believe they're planning, because it's in that moment they would convince us in our desperation, okay, we'll take a digital ID, we'll take the digital currency, programmable, just allow us to keep our homes and allow us to eat. You see? And so the data is there, and you can't get around it. It's just a matter of when. But all I know is it was supposed to happen already this summer. The data already shows it, especially in that negative 2% contraction. But they're keeping it alive by just fake money, fake trading to get through the election. We need to be outside the system of paper in order to protect and preserve ourselves. Because if we're outside the paper world, you will be able to sleep with peace. Preserving your wealth, you will have peace at night because the bank doesn't go down and take your stuff. You have real wealth, real money in your hands. And I think right now, until we get through this, it's so important to be properly diversified that way.
I completely agree. And one thing that a lot of people might be wondering is, well, okay, so how do I do that? Because, a lot of people out there, they're not financial experts, but they know that there's a lot of scams. And this is a big reason why I don't promote. Really, I think yours is the only company right now that I promote on this channel. I don't promote a lot of companies because I want to make sure before I promote a company that I've worked with them for years, so there's a good track record, and that I know that if that that it nobody can hide their scam for for too long. If I'm working with somebody for years and years and years, and they've had plenty of opportunities, if they wanted to scam me, they could have, and then yet they never do. That tells me that that's pretty trustworthy. And I know I've been working with you guys with Cornerstone for years and years and years. And I'm familiar enough with Cornerstone now where I can compare that against other gold and silver companies and stuff that I see. And even ones that are calling themselves Christian, I find their prices are really high. It seems like they gouge their customers. And you guys don't do that. So for the audience, we've gotten a lot of new subscribers since we've had you on last. Can you tell us about Cornerstone, what sets Cornerstone apart, and how people can get involved to protect their assets through Cornerstone?
Yeah, we're actually truly ministry mission oriented. I mean, a big chunk of our crew, we went to Bible school together. I mean, we're serious people. I mean, we're Rhema, man. We're on fire, spoken word of God type people. So we're serious. Now, our purpose, God made it very clear to me. I tried to get away from the business sector, and he said very clearly, get my people ready for what is coming. And I had multiple back-to-back dreams. Cornerstone is more mission central, ministry central, because I want to see, and we want to see, people get as many ounces of silver and gold in the hands as they can get. So we don't operate on real big spreads. Most of the other companies, if they have the word gold in their business name, there's a high possibility, probably 9.5 out of 10 of them, they are there to take advantage of you, gouge you, charge you unbelievable prices, not only to buy it, but then sell it back to them. Let's say, put it this way, if you're buying 500 ounces from them, you would probably buy 1,000 ounces from Cornerstone. And it's not that we're not good business people. It's just that we're mission oriented through ministry purposes. God made it clear what I needed to do. I will be fine and taken care of. Cornerstone is here to be here as a relationship from the beginning to the end. We have wonderful people that have been with us a long time that can walk you through. And for people that have very complicated situations or large accounts that seem complicated, call me directly or ask whoever you talk to, say, could I please talk to Terry Sacka? That is where I specialize, is in the bigger, more complicated, because of my financial background. And it's important because a lot of people don't want it in the paper system. As one dear guy had, he was like 90. He goes, I would rather have it in gold and silver in a vault than digits in the cosmos on that computer screen. And I just have to laugh at that because he's so true. So we're here to be a relationship. It's not about sales. It's about helping you learn, educating you, guiding you with decisions, and helping you just truly know how it works, how we do it, how you sell it, how you store it, what you do when you need money. We're here for that long relationship. Even after you buy, we're here all through the end, because I think if we do this right as a kingdom, and we are here before, during, and after this process, we, the people, have the ability in the kingdom to have resources preserved where we can support the ministries, support the churches, support our neighbors, and help people around us. And I know, Josh, you know firsthand what I'm talking about. I mean serious when I say Cornerstone is there to support. And we are serious about taking care of people. And that's the mission of Cornerstone. And the best part is you're getting a relationship with a family, not some salesperson with a company.
That's absolutely right, and that's exactly how I feel with you guys. And the people from my audience that have invested with you guys, I have not received one complaint about it. Not a single one. Everybody's just happy with it. And again, for the audience, I don't want you to be afraid like that. You're not a financial expert, so you're not going to understand. Nobody from my audience is, and many have gone to Cornerstone and invested, and none of them regret it. So I think it's a really smart and important thing to do. And especially nowadays, I feel like I can't speak for everybody, but in my personal life, I feel like I'm not a financial expert, and I know it would be really easy if I had to go into this blind. It would probably be easy for one of these companies to say the right things and to, guide me a certain way. And then maybe in a few months I would live to regret it. I look at Cornerstone as a godsend because I can trust you guys. I have for years, and all of my audience that has gone through you guys, no complaints, not a single one that I've ever heard. Everybody has had a good experience. And so to me, I see it as like a godsend. This is one of those situations where Paul says, not everybody's an eye, not everybody's an ear, not everybody's a prophecy expert, not everybody's a financial expert. But so I love knowing Cornerstone. While I don't have that background in finances that you have it, and I can trust you, and I do, and I trust Cornerstone, and that strength, I get to benefit from that. And so I would say to the audience, think of it, like that. And I know that especially for new members, this might be the first time that you're hearing Terry at all. Well, I've had him on probably dozens of times by this point. You can go back in the archives and listen to all of our interviews and get to know him. Call Cornerstone. It's free to just call and ask questions. Get to know them and start building that trust. Because I'm telling you, I do not promote companies on this channel, and it's not a hard rule. It's just I don't know a lot of companies personally that well to where I'd have that level of trust where I would want to recommend them to my audience and say, hey, these guys are solid. But I definitely feel that with Cornerstone. So you don't have to take my word for it. I would suggest just going to their website, giving them a call, and getting some information. And also just know you don't have to be a financial expert. And these aren't pushy salesmen. They're going to explain everything really easily to you in a way that you can understand. They've definitely done that for me, and they'll do that for you too. So what's the easiest way if somebody wants to if they're hearing this and they're saying, okay, I got a retirement, or I've got a few thousand in the bank, or whatever the financial situation is, if they have something that they want to invest in silver through Cornerstone, what's the best way that people can get started with that today?
Yeah, what's even funny, Josh, that we even have people that I think I could think of 3 or 4 probably over the last 3 years who literally send in $50 every 2 weeks. $75 every 2 weeks. I mean, we lose money processing the order, but the Bible said very clearly, do not be a respecter of person. We are really serious about looking after everyone. It doesn't matter if you have a little bit of money or a serious portfolio to protect. Everyone needs that protection, because if we do it right now, we're going through a real serious transition. We can only pray they don't pull off that one world currency. But all I know is they're doing it right now, and it starts in October, and then we're going to start to see evidence of that going towards next year. There's a reason things are unstable. It's because we're at the end of a cycle, I believe almost a 4th turning event in our culture and history. One we the people have to win, but if we don't, we better be properly prepared so we can then help those around us. Because if we lose everything, what good are we going to be to our neighbor?
Absolutely. That's such a good way to put it, and I totally agree. And I love that. I love that you guys are ministry focused, the way that you run your business, and it's phenomenal, and it's really rare to see nowadays, which is what I really love. And if people want to check it out, the link and the phone number are in the description below, which is Cornerstone Asset Metals, and I've also had it on the screen several times by now, so people can check that out. The link and the number are in the description and on the screen. Well, Terry, is there anything else in closing that you want to leave the audience with before we wrap up?
I would just pray that, the God says that I am the lamp unto your feet, meaning he guides us through our steps. Pray for wisdom and pray for understanding. Don't operate in fear, but be prepared. Don't right now in this time in history think everything is normal. If you saw the data I have in the background, you would know. And it's such a passion for me to get it out because I know a vast majority of us just don't want to hear it. It's like this. And we can't. That's how Germany went down. That's how Nazi Germany started. The Christians were the ones that stayed laying down. We better be wise, sharp, aware, and prepared. And if we do, I believe we can come out ahead at the end of this.
Amen. Well, I totally agree with you, and what a great positive note to end on. Terry, thank you so much for coming back on the show and giving us this update on what's going on. We really value your time and your information, and love to have you back on again sometime soon.
Oh, when I do the great taking, I'll definitely talk to you about it because we may want to do an in-depth on that one because that's the real deal. So God bless you, Josh. I'm glad for your transition, and I hope you do very well where you're at. It's a wonderful opportunity for you.
Amen. Yeah, thank you so much. And it has been. It's been really wonderful. And yeah, with that great take, we'll have you back on to talk about it. That would be great. Okay, so for everybody, for Terry Sacka, thank you again so much for coming back on the show. Always love talking with you. And for everybody viewing, thank you so much. For this episode, I'm just going to let people know, for this episode, I'm going to release this whole video for free on YouTube. Normally, I do the first half for YouTube and the second half on the Daily Renegade website due to censorship issues and things. And I've gone through that in many other videos. But if you are viewing this for free on YouTube, by the time it airs, people who are subscribers to dailyrenegade.com have already had this for a few days. They have early access. So even on the rare occasion that I do release a full video on YouTube, I don't typically do that, but the benefit of being a subscriber to dailyrenegade.com, to being a member there, is you'll always get early access. You'll always at least get that. So it is dailyrenegade.com. Membership is only $10 a month or $100 a year. And if you can do it, I suggest doing the $100 a year because technically you get 2 months for free that way. And yeah, we have a community page where there's a lot of great fellowship. And then we have the watch page that where you can view all the full videos and everything, stuff that you can't get on YouTube or anywhere else. So for members that are viewing, thank you so much. And for everybody viewing for free, thank all of you so much for joining us today on this episode. Until next time, love you all. Take care and God bless.